Have you ever interviewed for a job and you thought you killed it, but they didn't call you back and you wondered, what did I do wrong? In this video, I'm going to share common mistakes that people do that turn off the hiring managers and the people that are doing the interviews. I'm going to be sharing with you insight on how to overcome your fear of interviews and how to ask for the money that you desire and deserve in the negotiation process. This is the third video in a series of how to get a $150,000 job in 2025. My name is Christy Rutherford, and I've assisted 36 people with getting 30% raises in the past 5 years with the information that I'm sharing with you. After we have the passion, the resume, the LinkedIn, the network, now we come over to the interview. Here's the thing about the interview. Of the 250 resumes that come in, the system gets rid of 50% of them based on the keywords and what you want. And then you continue to get filtered down. You may have the phone interview. Maybe they'll call 12 people. And then they're actually going to interview in person 4 to 6. By the time you get to the interview, y'all, you're already qualified. They just want to know whether or not they like you. You were qualified to get into the room. They just want to know, do you fit in their culture? They want to know, do they like you? Now we're on a date. Do you like us? And do we like you? That you're qualified. So a lot of people get in the room and you start spouting out all the things that you've done and you start telling them about your degrees. They already know. They know. Right? You don't have to tell them you're qualified. That's how you got in the room. All they want to know when you're in the room is, do you like me? And do we like you? Point blank, period. That's it. That's it. That's it. That's it. Now, here's the thing. After interviewing, I have maybe 50, 60 people. I remember this was a long, 20 years ago. It was 2004. We used to interview these college students that wanted to join the Coast Guard. And I just remember some people being shaken in their boots. And it was one girl, she was shaking in her boots and she kept spinning in her chair. I used to be a little aggressive, y'all. I was a military officer. And she kept spinning in her chair. I was like, hey, man, stop spinning in your chair. Like, she just kept swirling. Because she was nervous, but she wasn't aware of her body language. And she wasn't confident. But after about 3 minutes, I ain't had no more questions. I was like this. I don't have no more questions. It was a no for me. Because she wasn't confident. She wasn't aware of who she was. And she kept spinning in that chair. People who are interviewing you are not responsible for making you feel safe. People who are in interviews are not responsible for making you feel welcome. What we want to know is, can you solve my problems? And do I like you? It's not that hard. You don't have to sell yourself and make them like you. Is like, just like yourself. And I've talked about this in thousands of videos and lives. And so you get into the room and you're trying to like make them like you, as opposed to standing and being confident in who you are, being passionate about what you can do for them, and understanding that you're the greatest person to ever do it. That awareness, y'all, is what's going to make you stand out above other people, point blank, period. And if you're tired, they can see that. If you're desperate, they can see that. If you're burnt out, they can see that. If you're a victim, they can see that. All turnoffs. They want confident, aware, secure people to come in and solve their problems. And if we talk about creating cultures of harmony and creating cultures of high performance and creating cultures of respect, if you're sitting in the room saying, I don't come to work to make friends, then how can we have a harmonious culture if you've drawn a line in the sand of, I'm just going to come to work, get my check and go home? That is a barrier. That mindset is a barrier because you've already blocked your energy off And you be like, let me just get this check. I'm qualified. I got a master's degree. I got this. I got that. You should hire me. It's like, no, in the interview, I just want to know whether or not I like you. What are your requirements for a job? What's your compensation? And what are your desires? All of this should be clear before you write your resume, LinkedIn, network, interview. What are you passionate about? How much is the question? What do you require in your new role? What are the 8 things that you require? I want my money. How much specifically, not a range. How much? I want $325,000. I want $425,000. I want $498, $998, whatever you want to make it. 125, 150, 165, 175. I want remote 100%, or I want a flexible work schedule, or I want to work in the office because I don't like to be at home. I'm willing to travel 300 days a year. I'm willing to travel once a quarter. I'm willing to travel 1 week a quarter. I don't want to travel. I want X number of vacation time. I want equity, whatever you want. What are your 8 requirements that you want for your next role? How much? And it should be based on how you want to live today. Because at 45, your priorities are different than when you were 25. When you're 35, your priorities are different than when you were 20, coming straight out of college. You have the capacity to design your career and your life. I want you to consider making it great. What is your compensation? But it has to be what you desire, y'all. Y'all have to be passionate about it, because when you come into the room and they see that you're passionate about the work, but then again, stone face as an interviewer. Stone face. Because I'm not here to make you comfortable. I want to know if you can come in here and solve our problems. And can you manage the high stress work? Because our career was stressful. I'm bringing you in a career because we're interviewing college students, Black college students, where I was one of 50 Black women officers out of 47,000 people. So you may be somewhere where you are like the only one. If you can't be comfortable with us, I know you ain't gonna be comfortable with these other dudes. It's over. Right? So culturally, they know who they are. I want to be clear. They know what they're bringing you into. They just want to know whether or not you fit in there. And here's the thing. When I interviewed for this role, when I was in the Coast Guard, and I interviewed for a job on Capitol Hill, it's been 12, 15, 20 years. So I can tell the story. And there was an office that was in the House of Representatives where it was one guy, white guy, who was a boat driver. And then there was a white pilot. And then you had me, Black, female, Marine safety. That rounded out. They was like, man, that's your job. The only thing you can do when you get in here is lose it. You can lose the job with your mouth, Christy. So I'm interviewing, and the pilot asked me, hey, have you had any challenges with your boss? Well, I was being harassed by the psychopath, Chucky serial killers. That's why I was trying to leave. And I was like, yeah. And he said, well, how did you manage it? I said, well, I just stand up and I just, I stand my ground and I try to have a conversation. I try to have a rational conversation about what's going on so we can work through it. Like, I don't avoid conflict. I'm not going to fight, but I'm not going to let people talk to me sideways. I like to have a conversation because I believe that healthy tension is a way that people can grow. But I think that we can be able to discuss it as rational adults. Now, he didn't like that. So I lost the job because he was toxic. Right? I went in there being myself. I didn't go in there being an introvert. One of my boys actually went into an interview for a job. He was talking. This dude was an introvert to the all caps max. And he was talking, acting like he had a personality. Absolutely no personality. Y'all, when he got the job, because he pretended to be somebody else than who he was, and they wanted him to talk all the time, they did not like him. They said he ain't a team player because he pretended to be talkative, but he was an all caps introvert. I didn't pretend to be a punk, but I wasn't aggressive. I was just being a leader. I was just like, yeah, if we got conflict, let's talk about it. He ain't like that. I walked out of that interview and then ended up talking to the captain that was in charge of the whole thing. And he was like, Christy, what do you think about, because they probably looked out the door, was like, he said, well, what do you want to go work as a congressional fellow? And I was like, well, what did they do? He was like, I don't know. I said, put me in for that. And then I got the congressional fellowship, which ended up being an amazing experience. And then the guy who ended up, the white guy who they chose in that job, one of my boys, the dude ran all over this dude. It was just, he was miserable. And I was like, well, thank God I didn't get that job. Now, I say all that to say, when you're being interviewed, they know their culture. They just want to know whether or not you fit. Be yourself, and not in an aggressive way, not in a victim way, not in a passive way that I just talked about, not in like to draw the line in the sand. Be aware of how great you are. Be able to confidently articulate who you are. Be able to say, this is what I can do. This is how I can help you solve your problems, because that's really what they want. But you don't have to get into the minutia and over deliver that you're qualified. They know you're qualified. That's how you got in the room. If you found this information useful, go ahead and like and subscribe to my podcast. And if you missed the first video in this series, it's right here. And if you missed the second one, it is right here. Get this information, use it, and get the job that you desire and deserve.